All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back to the Kinning podcast. It's been a while between the vlogs and the pods. Haven't hit record for a couple of years, just one thing to another. Ended up going to races and flying drones and trying to race at the same time. So hit pause and all that. But had a great weekend there at the Champs and just thought I'd hit record and put the thoughts on the tape. I don't know if this will be a one-off or... Well, there's a few things lined up in the next few weeks that we'll get into. But I had a great chat on the Saturday night with Danny Blondale and Keith Colville, who runs the I Forgot the Enter podcast, and Danny with the Belgian project, which he's actually finishing up. So I see a gap in the market, and hence that's why I'm here. Also, Ronan McLaughlin, he's doing a bit of YouTubing as well. And funny enough, his first video was basically, it's not going to be perfect. Hence why this is only coming out now. I've probably recorded this and then thought about it. So here we are. Yeah, great weekend down at the Champs, Irish Cyclocross Champs 2025 in Ballinasloe, hosted by Ballinasloe CC. Real close race with myself, Ronan O'Flynn in second, and Marcus Flavin in third. So just wanted to sort of relay what sort of happened and how the race went, because at one stage the head had dropped and I was out of it. So even if you break it down to the week before, which was McChrystal's, and it was the fourth round of the National Series, which I haven't actually done this year, just from one reason or another. I just didn't fancy travelling, packing the van up week in, week out. At the age of 41, didn't really need to travel that much. Also, I've been to a few races. I don't even want to say in the south, but I've been to a few races that you travel a good bit of distance to, and it's a couple of sticks in a field. So those days are gone, but I always had that in the back of my head. So McChrystals have raced several times before. You always get a good race there, good course. Brian McChrystal has a permanent facility there, and I've done a couple of the races there on the Wednesday night, and even the week before that was New Year's Eve. There was a race there, which was, again, it was a tight course, and he ended up using that for the National Series. So we had a wind chill factor that day of -3, and I also had my own M40 race, which was a nice benefit. So ended up winning it, which gave me a bit of a boost, a bit more confidence, because you don't really know how you're going over Christmas with the indulgence of food and alcohol, shall we say, over Christmas. So yeah, it was a thumbs up there, gave me a wee bit of confidence going into the Champs. But if we could break the Champs down, I ended up going down on the Saturday and packed the van Friday, and actually, if you know, I've closed the shop and I'm working out of the van now, so I had to do a full dereg of the van and get it packed up, plenty of water, of a big 400, I think it's 400 litre tank in, so it's 400 kilos as well. So cruised down the road at just 50 mile an hour, just set the cruise control and took my time, because I knew putting the foot to the floor is going to cost that extra few pound with the miles per gallon. But yeah, cruised down on the Saturday, just took my time, just me on my own. The rest of the family were coming down in the evening, making a weekend of it. Good support, and got down there for just after lunchtime. Actually picked up, threw a couple of podcasts on, got a couple of insights from I Forgot the Enter. More on that later, but yeah, we got there just to see Emer putting the hands up on her race, and got parked up and was pleasantly surprised what was laid out. So did our usual Google Maps research, and seen the course sort of seemed to be like a fair where they trade horses or something like that, something along those lines, and right in the town centre of Ballinasloe. So didn't really know what to expect, and sometimes those like town centre pitches and stuff, they can be waterlogged, so I had that sort of fear. And with the amount of tires on the ground at the weekend of the Champs, people come out from the woodwork for it, and you're always thinking that's going to cut up too. So we weren't really knowing what to expect. Having a couple of chats with other riders and asking them, have they been there before? Have they raced there before? So we didn't know what to expect, but it was definitely a thumbs up. Car park was on point, and then they also had like a team area, but there was no need for me to go there on the Saturday. I just parked in the normal car park. They had a lovely big start and finish straight as well, which was a road section, and they had building there a bit of heat for maybe if it was going to rain. But I think running the UCI races in the past, I think you have to have some sort of shelter, like a permanent building. I don't know if that's a requirement for the UCI staff. So I had that as well. And then I think I was able to watch the next race. And then I decided to go out. That was the M50 race, M60. Maybe there's a race on before that, I actually forget. But I know I didn't do the last practice session, so it must have been just before that race. And I'll sort of break the course down. So start and finish area was on a big long straight, and then we had a square right off the on the tarmac, which was the first question mark in that, and it then led into a big long straight, which then looped around the back of the pits, which had started waterlogging. So I rode it a few times the first give it a couple of attempts the first lap or two, just to sort of work out what the line was going to be. A few boys ended up running it, and then after that it was the boards, which were just after a 180 turn, and they were in a real slow place, but I was able to jump them. So that's the first thumbs up, a bit of confidence. And then after that it went on to what was known as Chapel Hill, bit of a bank up, maybe a 10, 15, 20 second effort, down, back up again. A couple of there was one section was quite tight, and it was almost too tight to get the bike round, and it was dead slow. And then out of that and back up again. The course, in my opinion, had too many corners, but that's my opinion. I'll probably offend people by saying that, but sure, it is what it is. It's my opinion. And they probably could have had a sweeper on that corner, on that bank, which would have made it a wee bit more interesting as opposed to the 180s. But after that, then it was there was three. I think there was three big kicker climbs up that, and then back over to the pits, a couple of straights there, and then into the second section, which was at the other end of the sort of fairground or the pitch or whatever you want to call it. But it was more soggy, sort of moss on the ground, so I knew it was going to cut up. And I was doing the practice laps with 20, start off with the 24, which is always my go-to PSI. Let it down just a wee bit, checked it with the gauge, and was running 22 then. Rode those banks okay, which I was happy enough with. And then they were quite wide, so there was 2 or 3 lines up them, as opposed to all the other corners, which just sort of had one line on them. And I was definitely pushing in the practice, and there was plenty of grip. So I was struggling with what PSI to go, because you had all these corners, which I wasn't opting for a low PSI, but we'll get on to that later on, what ended up happening. And then those grass banks, then there was another tight corner, which we ended up running in the race. Another couple of switchbacks, again all pan flat, just sort of 2 areas of elevation. We also had a sand pit as well, big long straight. They use sort of like a grey cinder, what would it be? It wouldn't be a soil, just like a grit in it. So it was easy in practice, but that turned out in the race that even Mr. Seymour called me shit in it. So I couldn't get it in the race at all. In practice it seemed fine, but when we came to the race, just didn't have the legs. The horse through it, didn't have the horsepower. And then into a spiral. Now, some people love them, some people hate them. I'm not a fan of them. They should have been left maybe 20 years ago when we were struggling for courses and venues that were letting cyclocross riders race on them. Just not a fan of them, but we got one. We got one in Armagh as well. One a year is enough, but it was wide enough that I ended up rubbing shoulders with Marcus in the race. So after that, then we had a couple of 90s and 180s, and onto the road section. Just before the road section, there was actually a real muddy section, which sort of rode it once or twice. There was maybe 2 lines to it, which I was confident enough that if it was going to come to a sprint, that I had that in the back of the head, that was going to be a passing point or sort of an area of attention. And again, there was a couple of rocks in it and stones, so I sort of actually stopped and picked a few out as well, and sort of eyeballed the curb and a couple of the posts as well, and rode it once or twice. So there was definitely a place or two to be made there if it was coming down to a sprint. So I was happy enough with the practice laps. Watched the M50, M60 races again. Sippy Doyle got a great start from Robin in his race, and Bingo was just off as well. So I sort of watched it and knew that the course wasn't lending itself to like guys that could get on top of the pedals and top of the power, because once there was no big long straights as some of the other courses have been in the champs. Like last year in Limerick, we had a hell of a lot of straights as well. So the racing was close, just to sit and watch. And the guys were running the banks, guys were riding the banks. So I made a point of going over and watching them. Then I was going to go out for the last practice session, but I sort of sat and thought about it and realised I wasn't going to gain much more knowledge or training on it, and sort of thought I'll do it in the morning. I'll get another practice lap or 2 in the morning, maybe push, because I don't want the thought process being interfered with on the night before, because you sort of set yourself, your mindset was already sort of set to what you were going with PSI wise. So wrapped up, and Big Jerry had been called in because the pitmen had disappeared. Let me down is not the words to use. Well, they all had their issues. Thomas, I don't know if you're listening, he was moving into Australia. Mark couldn't make it. Murray couldn't make it. So there, it's not even that there was a chain of command, but Big Jerry stepped up and he was able to stay for the night. Had accommodation booked months ago, and then the rest of the family decided to come down, and had a bit of a panic going where we were going to get all in the same area or even the same hotel. But no, we ended up staying in Marina Park and got round to the hotel. Everyone else arrived and got checked in, all good. And then I met Keith Coville, who runs the I Forgot the Enter podcast. Had a great chat with him. We're talking tech, we're talking video, we're talking Instagram, and I showed him the podcast and a couple of the YouTube videos that I'd done in the past, and he was like, why aren't you doing this? Hence, this is where we are now. So, yeah, great chat with Keith. And then Danny appeared, had a bit of a chat with him just about the Belgian project, and he says he's wrapping it up. Just different things are happening there, and that's probably a reflection of the standard of cycling at the minute in Ireland. It is on the down. Again, that's another topic for discussion in a few weeks. But yeah, great conversation. Great chat with the guys, and then got to my bed early. No Guinness was taken. Man, if I had had a Guinness and then had the race that I had, the Guinness would have been getting the blame. So yeah, got to the bed, got to the pit, and when you're away like that, you're sort of worrying that am I going to sleep all right? Is there going to be noise? But no, we got to bed all right, got to sleep, no problem. Alarm was set for 6:55 a.m, which I don't mind the early starts, because then your race food is your breakfast. So I was happy enough with that. Just had it. Was going to follow the procedures, which was last week was the porridge and maybe a bit of honey on it or something sweet. So even though it was all inclusive, we got a breakfast as well included. It was sort of like, I just want a bowl of porridge, but we went for the porridge. Got down just after 7, ordered the porridge. 10 minutes later, Big Jerry arrives, orders the full fry. 10 minutes later, the wife Lindsay arrives down with the kids. She orders. Mum and Ozzy, they arrive down and they order, and I'm still sitting after being there first, and still no porridge. So got the porridge into me at about 7:30, which I was sort of worried about because I don't like the bloat when you're racing. So got done and dusted with the porridge and a coffee, and then headed round to the course. And again, still dark at this time. Just sun was starting to break, so I knew there would be a bit of moisture on the track, and not to be too concerned about that. And then went with the two bikes, and I stuck 22 in the white bike and 20 in the black bike, and I think I done like two practice laps, and just sort of made sure that nothing dramatic had changed overnight, or sometimes maybe a post can move for some reason or whatever. But no, it was fine. Got back to the van, happy enough, thumbs up, got dressed up for the race, and got the numbers pinned on. Did a warm up, which was maybe 10 minutes if even. Now, I had listened to the podcast that Keith does on the way down, and Marcus had worked out that I go out hard on the first lap. So I sort of knew that they would be watching me in the first lap, and it's not that I didn't plan to go out hard on the first lap. It was just sort of, I had that in the back of my head that these guys were going to be watching me, and I had a sort of place that I was going to push maybe on the first lap and hope for a gap. And that was the sort of game plan going into the race. So the race went along, got gritted because I won it last year, so I was on the front row, Ronan beside me, Marcus beside him. 3, 2, 1, go, and everything went well. Got through the first corner okay. Round to the pits, I think maybe that first corner at the hairpin at the back of the pits, which was really deep mud now, one sort of rut through it. I think I maybe lost 2 or 3 positions there. Made up for it in the next section, and then we came to the boards where I sort of really messed up. I was riding them in the pre-practice, but that first lap I sort of had visions of the cyclocross race in Dublin where the guy crashed, and I just rolled up to them and dismounted and went from second or third to maybe sixth. Got back on and had to make a few places up, and then we went up the Chapel Hill, and after maybe 2 or 3 of the sections I managed to get onto the front. Came down out of there and pushed hard through the pits, made a bit of an effort there, and then rode the next 2 banks, and I just wasn't making a gap, and I was like, right, okay. And then Ronan, he made his first, I don't know if it would be effort or attack, and he can I think maybe he can pass me just before the sandpit, and he actually gapped me, and it wasn't that there was alarm bells happening because it's only the first lap, so you're sort of just taking his racing first lap and that. But then Marcus came around as well, and I think it must have been the first lap that was sort of rode shoulder to shoulder, and the bike was doing 2-wheel drifts. And then I was just sort of like, things aren't going 100% to here today. You know, the A game is not here today, which I usually can do is just lift your game for the A champs. I was like, everybody else has lifted their game for the A champs, but not me. So for the next 2 to 3 laps, we all changed positions, the 3 of us. It was shoulder to shoulder, a bit of dive bombing, a bit up the insides, a couple of attacks, wheels were let go, and that was the format for the next 2 to 3 laps. And then I think Ronan must have put a big effort in one of the laps. Like, I actually have the lap times here. Let me have a quick look. Lap times. So yeah, the lap times were for us in the M40s were 9:47 for me, 9:48, a 9:54, a 9:55, and a 9:42. So Ronan must have put in, his third lap was quite fast, yeah. So his third lap was quite good, and I think it went out then to 8 seconds from me to Marcus and then him. I'm not sure if it ever went to the 20 seconds. You could really break the lap times down if you want, but I'm not that too into the lap times as long as they're sort of ballpark figure around each other. And I just, like, as the saying goes, one week you have diamonds in the legs, the following week you have marbles or ball burns, but just knew it wasn't on top of the gear. And again, I don't know whether that was part of the course. I had it in the back of my head that you couldn't really get the power down. Didn't panic, but the head probably dropped once or twice because it was one of those areas. It was one of those courses where you could have a look over and see the other area. And I was getting time checks, and instead of the time checks coming down, they were going up. And I was like, right, I have to really think here what the issue is and where am I making time up. And I noticed Ronan was riding the banks quite easy, and where I wasn't. So then I started thinking tire pressures, and I was like, right, okay. I knew the black bike had a slightly lower tire pressure. That if that was the issue, then if the tire pressure being lower on the black bike was going to be an issue, you could have asked them Big Jared to top it up 1 or 2 psi in the pits. But I took a risk with about 2 laps to go. Then the change onto the black bike, and it literally was night and day. I came round to that next section on the second pit 2. There was a couple of banks, and yeah, it was just gripping so much more. And so my last 2 lap times, like, I had a 9:58, so that must have been the change, including that. And then the last lap was a 9:52, which was the fastest lap of the race with Marcus on his second lap. So yeah, caught back up. Even the commentating, Paul was doing a great job commentating, and we got back up to Ronan with a few corners to go, and I got off the bike early on that corner that everyone was running, and he got back on the bike, but I had the momentum and came past him on the next corner and rode the next couple of sections flat. And then my next sort of point of interest was the sand, and whether or not I was going to get through the sand in one piece. Was he going to come through me in the sand? And I'm riding and checking over my shoulder every couple of bike lengths, because there was that many corners towards the end. It was like it did open itself up to the infamous dive bomb, which I thought it was going to come down to. So I knew I had to pin it out of every corner, but at the same time not slide out. And yeah, it was interesting coming out of the spiral, because I knew I had 2-wheel drifts coming out of the spiral. I was able to grab onto the post and swing around them, get on the power early. And again, what did have the dampness in the morning with the dews running about. And yeah, just the last couple of laps just held the nerve and was just watching over the shoulder and shoulder. If you're on the YouTube listening to this, I've asked Keith for the video. Like, he's done a brilliant job just documenting it and getting it there on Instagram now. So yeah, I'll try and pin that up on the YouTube as well, and on the socials as well. Great footage. And yeah, just held a nerve. But I also had it in the back of the head that the last 100 metres before the tarmac was that deep mud, and I thought Ronan was going to come past me there, so I rode it. That was my main point of concern. So I came into it all guns blazing, and then turning from one surface onto the next surface, you're also worried. So I got into the last finishing straight, nose in front, which was delighted about. So I don't know if you've seen the photos, but yeah, the expression of happiness was OTT maybe, but I was delighted to take the win and defend it. Even this was probably the most I've been pushed for it. Last year, I just sort of got away early, and the year before it was me and Bingo, which again I was pushed there. But Jesus, this one was even tight again. So you could break it down a good bit. Like, I didn't do that much cycling over the summer. I came into the season empty, but it's been a bit of a wake up call. You know, I'm not 20 anymore. I'm 41. So yeah, bit of a wake up call. And I'm going to try and get a wee bit more of the podcasting and the vlogging done over the next couple of weeks. There's a couple of events and a couple of things happening, so stay tuned for that. Uh, After the race, then did the ceremony on the what do you call it, the podium. Got the medals, got the jersey again. Sticky bottle was straight there. I don't know if you've seen the photo, but literally hanging over the barriers, breathing out my arse, and sticky bottle straight there. Which no better place to get a statement. It's just right there. Connor does a brilliant job of what he does, and yeah, it was a great report. Toby was there getting the photos. There's so many photos come through. Damien as well. I think I've seen some from Caroline and Sean Rowe as well. Like, just, without those guys, the sport, it's just in the dark basically, and they all do a great job. There's Keith and I's doing that much in the video as well, which I'm more a video man than a photo guy. You only get one chance to take a video or one chance to take a photo, but with a video. But then just editing the videos, I burnt myself out a wee bit doing that. So hence here we are. So got the podium done, and then went back to the camper van. On the way back, Curtis McKee asked me for words of wisdom, but little does he know, I was actually asking Johnny McCabe for words of wisdom. So I just passed them on. It's like, I don't know if he's looking up to me as an older rider, but I'm looking up to Johnny as an older rider. But I just give him the words of wisdom. So that's the chain of command would be the way of sort of looking at it. But yeah, we was able then to go and watch the junior race. Again, Connor Murphy blitzed it. I don't think he had much issues getting away. I think he rode it pretty clean. And then after that, was able to watch the women's race again. Esther Wong won it from Greta. I think Greta's did a great ride, and they're all racing pretty close, and there's going to be a big question mark in here who gets picked for the Worlds. And then we were on to the main event, which was the senior race. Now, I had a quick chat with Mark the week before, and he sort of asked me could I do pits for him and Dean, which I was honoured to do because I haven't ever done pits before for anyone in the senior race that I'm aware of. So wee bit of pressure, the man was on for a medal, so a wee bit of pressure. And he was parked beside us. Like, I'm laid back, but Dean is just another level of chilled out. And ever since I've sort of known them in the XMTB days, they're just regimented of what their warm-up is and all that, and they just have it down to fine tea. So it was great just to sit and watch him, and do you need this, do you need that? Nope. He's just done his warm-up and away he went, and has it down to fine tea. Went and watched that race then from the pits, which again, a wee bit of pressure because of the way the course was. You were watching them, and then the next minute they were right on you and coming into the pits. And the first few laps, the first few corners, I could see where there was a couple of dive bombs happening up in even the Chapel Hill. But geez, the speed of the guys and the first couple of laps, like, it was just crazy. Dean ended up running that corner and running straight into the pits. And again, there's a couple of videos on it. I'll try and get them pinned up on the YouTube channel. And just the speed. And then it was Darnell in second. The Diesel Darnell the Diesel was second, and I had a chat with him as well, just about like areas to put the power down. But when you're on top of your game, you're just getting the power down that wee bit more. And behind him you had Travis and Tash Clean, who they locked horns the whole way to the finish line, and it was a nail biter. Unfortunately, they weren't racing for the win, but they came right down just a few seconds. And then after that we had Richard Barry, Monty was back as well, and Tim, and then ever consistent Mr. Graham Boyd was there as well. And then just the amount of riders. I think, what was it in the end, how many riders there was? It must have been at least 20 odd riders, 30 odd riders in the race as well. But overall, just a great weekend. Another, as an event organizer, you sort of go to the events, and I'm always comparing them to my own events and sort of going, right, what can I take away from this? And it's just the fact that you could stand in one area and watch the whole race was just, I don't know if it's like called a pretzel is what the Americans would call it. You stand one area, it goes out and does a loop and comes back again. But just hats off to Ballinstoe CC for putting on a great event. I don't even know what improvements, if any, they could do. You know, there's been one or two races we went to and they've had maybe like a bridge or something that the Clonmel has the bridge at it. That's maybe something they could look at with the steps on it or something. You know, there was no, well, for me there was no dismounting at it because I was able to do the barriers, but you're always looking for that one area where you're going to make or gain time, but the course was just constant flowing. So it was hard to sort of, personally I can't fault them, just too many corners in my opinion. But yeah, it was a great weekend. Great racing the whole weekend, and couldn't fault it. And there was definitely a buzz about the whole weekend, the 2 car parks and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, great weekend. But I don't know what way this is going to end up. Hopefully, try and get a few more videos out. I have the the Swift National Champs on Saturday. Fingers crossed. I don't even know what way that. I think I have to enter that and be selected or something for it. Maybe do a wee bit of a recap on that, and then I'm going to the World Champs with Jerry's Tours in a few weeks as well. God help us. Over to that. Try and get a wee bit of footage and maybe have a wee chat with some of the riders and get their feedback on it. And then we also have one or two of the biking blitzes coming up. So I'm not exactly sure where you're listening, but I know for a fact I can get it on the Spotify. I'll be able to get it on YouTube as well, sort of as a audio video. Let me know if you want actual video of me sitting here in the garden room talking, or if it's just the audio you prefer. I'm not sure where maybe Apple Podcasts as well, but yeah, let us know good or bad feedback, improvements, or even subjects we can chat about. I had a quick WhatsApp there with a few guys and asked them would they be interested in doing a few videos with us. Because I can probably guarantee you that this is just monotone of me just sitting here talking on my own, unless we get a beer or maybe a couple of Cokes into me. But yeah, let us know what you think, guys. And again, great weekend. Tip my hat to Ballinstoe CC and everyone else. Cheers.